The Isle of Skye might seem like a place of beauty, but scratch the surface and you'll find violence, murder and retribution. Oh, and fairies. If you're interested in the people, places and events in Scottish history, then click the subscribe button at the bottom right of the screen and ring the notification bell to be told when I upload new videos. In the meantime, let me tell you a story. Now, I'm taking the opportunity to come here after performing my live show in Skye last night, and if you're wondering when comedy and history are coming to your town, then click the link top right or find a link for dates and tickets in the description below. Looking out in Ardmore Bay, it feels unspoiled, like this could only be a place of peace. But today, I've brought you to one of the world's most beautiful rugged places to tell you about one of Scotland's most brutal events that spanned 2 Hebridean islands. There are many places in Skye where the MacDonalds and the MacLeods clashed in bitter feuds. But here on the Waternish Peninsula must be the most bitter and tragic. Let me tell you as I've heard it. The Isle of Skye was dominated by 2 clans, the MacDonalds of Slate and the MacLeods of Dunvegan. Now, during the lordship of the Isles, everything had been all right. The MacDonalds were the lords of the Isles. MacLeod of Dunvegan was on the council of the Isles. They'd fought side by side at the Battle of Bannockburn, the Battle of Harlaw, the Battle of Bloody Bay. But in the second half of the 15th century, the wheels came off the lorry. There was a big hoo-ha with the Lord of the Isles and the Stuart King and the Douglases and the King of England and the War of the Roses, and it was all a messy business. Now, by a stroke of luck, I made a video about that, and if you come back and click the link up there, it'll all be explained. At the end of it all, James IV took the title of Lord of the Isles from the MacDonald chief to himself. To this day, the title's held by the son of the monarch. So, a bit like Prince William's the Prince of Wales down south, he's also the Lord of the Isles up here. The point is that at the start of the 16th century, MacDonald power was in decline. And the MacLeods, they were all a bit more, who do you think you are, Billy Big Boss? And, well, you get the picture. So, the story goes that in a series of tit-for-tats and ongoing feuds, the MacLeods had sailed south to the MacDonald's island of Egg. Right, I know I just said the MacDonald's island of Egg, and nobody in Scotland batted an eyelid, but there are now some folks abroad thinking that we've got a fast food joint that sells massive egg burgers. They're so big that they call them the Island of Egg. Or is it that there's an actual Hebridean island and it's made out of egg? Is there nothing the Scots can't do? EIGG is a Hebridean island, and the people who lived on it were MacDonalds. It was the MacDonald's Island of Egg. Anyway, one day in 1577, a raiding party of MacLeods landed on the island, and the MacDonalds fled to the Cave of Egg. The MacLeods piled up heather at the mouth of the cave and they lit it. Now, they say that the plan was to smoke the MacDonalds out so that they could take them as prisoners. But how were they supposed to get out, I ask you? Either by choice or necessity, the MacDonalds stayed in the cave. They tell me 395 MacDonalds suffocated in that cave. An island was depopulated, and today the cave is known as the Massacre Cave. Now, you know the MacDonalds weren't going to leave things at that. On the first Sunday morning in May 1578, as the MacLeods of Trumpan worshipped in this church, 8 burling ships pulled up on the shore in Ardmore Bay. They'd been sailed from Uist that you can see in the distance. They were filled with MacDonalds, intent on revenge. Arriving here from the bay below, they barred the door. I don't know how the MacLeods first realised their fate. Was it when they heard the heavy thud of the door being blocked? Did they wonder what it was? Maybe they were singing a psalm, and one by one the singing stopped. They looked at each other. They listened to the sound from outside, where creeping silence had turned into roaring commotion. Somebody tried the door, first a hand, then a shoulder. Get Hugh to do it. He's stronger. Let him try. And then the smell of burning. Was that when they realised? There's no township here at Trumpan now, and the church is a ruin. And the MacLeods at Trumpan came to an end the same hour their church burned down. All that is, except one. A little 10-year-old girl was small enough to squeeze through a window and escape. They tell me that this little girl, whilst mortally injured, fled to Dunvegan to raise the alarm. Now, I doubt she could have run the 10 miles to Dunvegan. She must have been terrified, and reaching the first place where she knew that there'd be a life, she blurted out the tale through the tears of smoke and sorrow, hoping, with a child's hope, that it really didn't happen, and they'd all still be there when she returned. The baton passed to somebody older. They had got to Dunvegan to raise the alarm, as the poor little girl, overcome by exhaustion, burns and smoke inhalation, breathed her last. She needn't have hope for survivors. She was never going to return. If you're righteously enraged by this, imagine how you would have felt as an able-bodied MacLeod male who'd received word that morning. Worse still, as you and others gathered and followed the clan chief as fast as you could, you'd be certain that the MacDonalds hadn't waited around to receive your righteous retribution. But the MacDonalds had overlooked one thing. The tide that had brought them up the beach on their arrival was the very time and tide that waits for no man. So by the time that they'd finished their burning, ensuring that all but a little girl would be consumed by the flames, the tide had gone, leaving their boats stranded high on the beach. That's what gave the MacLeods time to get here. And as they attacked the MacLeods, they raised the fabled fairy flag, which would make their victory certain and meant that the MacDonalds would be killed near to a man. The story goes that the bodies were laid along the side of a dike, and the dike was collapsed on the dead MacDonalds, giving the battle the name, the Battle of the Spoiled Dike. Now you can debate the veracity of parts of this tale. Did a dying 10-year-old girl manage to escape and run to raise the alarm before collapsing? Were there deaths on the scale described? Were the bodies really buried under a dike? Did the fairy flag really deliver supernatural success? As you're asking those questions, you might also ask, how did this all start? When is righteous revenge justified? Does retribution upon retribution slake anybody's bloodthirst? And maybe, when does the mass killing of innocents outweigh the burden of revenge? If you'd like to hear more stories of clan feud and conflict, then there's a video coming up on screen now. Support the channel by clicking top right to become a Patreon member, or buy me a coffee in the description below. Ha mi an dóchas gon bí láma alive. Cheery and Rasta.